self-determination to choose candidates of our choice.
Yes.
We know, we understand that we have, and we currently have, and we continue to meet all the elements stated in Thornsburg versus Gingles that allows us to have minority-majority districts. Minority-majority districts are protected under the Voting Rights Act. And what they look at is the totality of the circumstances. And the totality of the circumstances in Milwaukee County are very complex. We know we have suffered, it's well documented, from the effects of racism, and it puts certain people in our societies at a disadvantage in competing and the ability to participate in our political process. That's why we know we have certain elements that need to be met to make sure that our votes are not canceled out, that our voices are heard, that we have the right to choose, to make that choice. We do not want opportunity districts. We know that opportunity districts are not protected under the Voting Rights Act or in the laws. And we want to keep the rights we have. And we also know that there's a better way. And there's a better way. And it's not fair. The partisan gerrymandering is also not fair. We also know that we want everyone to be equal in our state. We want everyone to be equal in our state. And we know there's a way to do that, to have fairness in partisan elections, as well as a fairness and having equality for all communities of interest. We know there's a way to do that. And that's what we hope for, and that's what we're fighting for. A way for all to be equals. But we do not want to lose our rights to make that self-determination, to elect the candidates of our choice. And with that, I will turn it over to Senator Lena Taylor. My voice is very scratchy. I forgot to mention my name is Representative Sylvia Ortiz-Velez. Just recently, I also am the Vice Chair of the Judiciary Committee in Milwaukee County. We just spent 2 months. We actually did have an independent redistricting committee. And what I'll say about that was that it was a great process, but there is a role for the legislative branch to play. And that role is the check. And I also want to say that I am proud of all my colleagues who stood with us yesterday, who voted no to the idea of replacing our minority-majority districts with opportunity districts, including members of leadership. And it was hard for everyone, and I don't blame any of my colleagues in the caucus, Democratic caucus, because the truth is that we were shut out in the process by everyone. We did our best. And yesterday we did our jobs. Thank you.
First of all, thank you. I'm State Senator Lena Taylor. I represent the 4th Senate District, and I'm here to talk about redistricting. We know that there are 3 issues that are most important in redistricting. One is process. The process has been broken. The process that the Republicans used was broken. It did not include Democrats. It did not include individuals of communities of color. As a result of that, you can go and listen to Robin Boss's own quote. He did not consider race when making maps. We presently have 6 assembly districts that are African American, majority, minority districts, and 2 Hispanic districts, Latino districts that are majority, minority districts, and those were changed based on a court case that required those lines to be changed. Correct, Representative?
Valdez versus Brennan in 2012.
And so the issue at hand is that process was not appropriate, so we could not be included. But I want to be clear. There are 2 other components in redistricting that are also extremely important. One is competitiveness of the maps. And the Republicans drew maps that give us less seats than we presently have as Democrats. So the competitiveness is not fair. If maps are not fair to Latinos, it's not right. If maps are not fair to African Americans, it's not fair. It's not right. And if they are not fair to competitiveness, they are not fair and they are not right. But tonight, we come out in the dark of the night to tell you that the maps would leave us in the dark as communities of color. And what do I mean by that? Presently, we have majority-minority districts. And you might say, well, what does that mean? It doesn't mean having a district that's just 50% plus one. It means having a district that is more than 50%.1 if necessary, based on the totality of the circumstances, is what the Voter Rights Act says. If you do not look at the totality of the circumstances, then you make maps that are saying they're the majority in name only, but not in reality. How do we know that? Because we have an example, it just happened in April of 2020 in this community, where a county supervisor race was going on, and it was a 60% voting age population for the Latino community, and they could not win because of the 6 or 7 wards that were white wards, but 19 wards were Latino wards, and the candidate won them hands down.
But there were other factors, because we know along the Eastern Corridor, when we look at the totality of the circumstances, in Milwaukee County, there's plenty of testimony and public records. We did our process all transparently. We know that the Eastern Corridor in Milwaukee County has a higher, because of socioeconomic factors, has a higher turnout rate than much of the county. When we're building minority districts, we have to consider the voting behavior, so we not to cancel out the voices of minority-majority communities, so that we have an equal voice, so that we can have equality in the election.
That is correct. And so my point is, in that election, because of the block in the 7 wards that were not Hispanic wards, their voting pattern was very different than the Latino community.
Correct.
There are other issues that make up the totality of the circumstance. For example, we are in a hyper-segregated community where disparities exist.
Correct.
We have polarized voting based on color.
Yeah, we do.
We also have other issues like citizen age, voting age population.
Right.
You can't consider voting age population or total population. You have to include citizen voting age population in Hispanic districts. If you do not, then you're saying that they can get there, meaning they can elect a candidate of their choice, but they really can't. I want to give you some specific numbers. So that's why I left my glasses on, so that I could actually see. So in particular, in the GOP maps, well, let me back up. In the present district, we have a 67% and a 56% district, and it was already very difficult for candidates to win those seats.
Because the voting behavior, we have the lowest turnout anywhere in the state.
In the state.
Right here.
Totally in the state. This is some of the lowest voting wards. But if I could just note the numbers. In the GOP maps, they gave the Latino community 53% district and a 69% district. They gave in the PMC maps, they gave a 59% district and a 53% district. In some of the Democrat maps, they gave 50% districts and 60%, 66% districts. You might say, well, Lena, isn't that good enough? We just had a race that showed a 60% district was not sufficient in a county supervisor race. I want to give you some numbers on the Black community rapidly, and then open it up for others to speak. The GOP maps gave us a 45.78% district in the 10th Assembly District. It gave us 11 in Assembly District 11, a 71.47% district. That's called PAC. We don't need, meaning Black community does not need a 70% district, but we do need a 60% district in order to deal with the issues that make up the totality of our circumstances. Voting pattern, mass incarceration, I didn't mention for the Hispanic community, but it's true for us. People on probation, parole, and extended supervision, they may be voting age population, but guess what? They can't vote. So those numbers are a challenge. In 12, 55.4%, Senate District 57.1%, 16th District 52%, 17, 60%. They got that one right. 18th district, 50%. And Senate district, 54. So what does that mean? Of all the districts, we have 2 districts that are at numbers that we can get, and of the other six districts that are left, those are, not even possible. Some of them are possibles. Any of you play spades? Yep. So it's like having a book, is what the 60 and the 70% districts are for the Hispanic community. You know what possibles are? When it's a mid 50 or high 50 for African Americans, it's a possible. But when it's mid to low 50s, it's like getting an 8 or a 9 book and think you go 8 or a 9 and think you gonna make it. If it ain't a spade, it ain't rolling. Okay? So this is the same thing that we have. They say to me, well, Black leaders organizing communities say that we need 7 seats for African Americans. In Block's request, we would have a 51% district in 10, a 50% district in 11, a 50% district in 12, a 50% district in 16, a 50% district in 17, and a 50% district in 18. Let me tell you what that means. We will not have majority communities of color being elected unless the voting blocks that are not people of color choose those same candidates. Does that mean that we can't get Black and brown people elected? No, it does not mean that. But the issue that the Voting Rights Act provides us is that we get to choose a candidate of our choosing, whether a white voting bloc chooses otherwise or not. With a 50% district, we will lose Black and brown representation without a doubt. And I'll end with the PMC maps. The PMC maps, they're worse than Block's numbers. 42.6% in the 6th Senate District, 54.1% in the 4th Senate District, 42% in 16, 17, and 18 Assembly Districts, and 45% in 11, 53% in 10, and 55% in 12. So you say, well, Senator Taylor, you gave us a lot of numbers. And you're telling us that you don't want opportunity districts as the representative has stated. And let me tell you why. Opportunity districts are not protected under the Voting Rights Act. Opportunity districts are not protected under the Voting Rights Act. But minority districts that have totality of the circumstance are protected under the Voting Rights Act. And I will end with this. The law says that we are due those, and that if we have them, which we do, we have 8 Black districts now and 2 Latino districts now. It says if you have them and you have a 50% or more population, they have to maintain them. So I appreciate you coming out tonight. I am here to say I will not yield. I will not yield to not having Black and brown districts that are due us. I'm not asking for something that's not due us. I'm asking for something that the law says and provides. And I will not be moved.
So I just wanted to quickly add 2 things, and then we're going to open it up to 2 different speakers that are going to come and speak, and then we're done here.
We'll open it up for you to ask questions.
Yes, of course. I just want to say that all this has been a very interesting learning experience. But when it comes to opportunity districts and those numbers and the impact that an idea of doing opportunity districts will have in our communities to elect candidates of our choice, in the Latino community, it will result probably in not having the opportunity to have any member of our, being our choice, our community's choice, to decide who we're going to have as our representatives in any one of the districts that were drawn in the PMC. We'll have 0 opportunity. We will not be ensured to have the ability to elect candidates of our choice by what they're proposing. That's proposed. And in the Black community, the impact is from 6 assembly districts, and not even talking about the Senate district, forget about them. We lose all those for all communities. But talking about just the assembly districts, we have 6 African American districts. We know that the maps can be made. We know that we need all the elements to maintain them and to have them.
Actually, let me
and
chime in
result
right
into
there.
2, about possibly 2.
Let me chime in right there. Don't leave.
Okay.
We know they can be made because we have seen maps drawn that both deal with competitiveness and deal with people of color.
Yep.
We do not have to sacrifice
There's a better way.
representation for people of color. And I just want to say,
Our state deserves a better way. So we know that.
it's not based on my guess.
No.
We have literally seen maps that did that, and the county did a process that really was a much better process, meaning that it included retired judges, it included sewer PAC, and we saw a county make maps that are the most diverse maps we've seen in the state of Wisconsin. We have 9 and 9 seats.
Right.
So thank you.
And what I'll say about the process, independent redistricting committee, some people say, oh, it should all be in the hands of people that are independent without the legislators weighing in. And some will say, oh, it shouldn't be the independent redistricting committee, people shouldn't be involved. The answer is, inconvenient and somewhere in between. Because we do need, and we did do in Milwaukee County, we had an independent redistricting committee. We had 6 retired judges who read the law, who was assisted by sewer PAC. And it was transparent. Everything's on the record. And we went through the normal process. The legislative branch acted as the check in that. And it worked very well. And we can make improvements to it. And we will do a postmortem. But there is a need for the legislative body not to take the role that we're taking now. Thank you. And there's a better way. There's a better way for all of us to be equals in our society. Thank you.
We have a voting protection expert who has worked in our state for years, Peter Peckarsky.
Yeah, Peter. Thank you very much, Senator. My name is Peter Peckarsky. I am a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the United States Senate. The election's being held next year. I'm here tonight simply to support my friends and fellow Milwaukee neighbors, to stand with them, to stand up for them, and to stand up for the United States Constitution. Members of our Black and Hispanic communities are feeling like they're being disenfranchised, and it certainly looks like they are. They deserve to be heard and to have their concerns addressed. Now, I've devoted over 20 years to election protection activities in the polls on election day, making sure that every person entitled to vote in this community was able to vote. That work should lead to everybody in this community having the right to vote and having the majority-minority districts to which they're entitled. The lawmakers here tonight are fierce advocates for their constituents. They should have been at the table and their views should have been considered. And moreover, the requirements of the United States Constitution and the Voting Rights Act should have been considered before the People's Map Commission published those maps. We must make not only an active pledge to consider the impacts of our policy choices on our minority communities and invite those stakeholders to the table every time decisions are made, but to actually get them to the table and consider their views and their interests in this matter. We know we can do better and we must do better now, and that's what I intend to do. In addition to this, we must restore and improve the Voting Rights Act to protect the rights of this community and every other minority community in this country. Thank you very much.
We also have individuals from the Black Panthers and the Brown Berets that will also speak.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Walter Guerin, and I'm the state commander for the Brown Berets here. Before I speak, I want to make it clear that I'm not behind any politician, and I don't represent or run with any politician here. With that being said, we're here to represent our own community, and we're here to talk about our own problem. We're tired of having politicians and everybody else meddling in our problems and not doing anything about what we need to do here. All right. The fact of the matter is that diluting our mapping, our remapping. They're changing our seats. We're going to lose seats on the black seats and we're actually gonna lose one brown seat as well. All right, promising stuff never makes it. We are tired, especially us brown people here, we are tired to wait for some white Democrat to come and save us. We are not gonna wait for that. All right, we are tired for a white Republican to come and save us.
Say it.
We are tired. We want our people. We want to see representation. We got a majority of our people here. We should be able to represent our own selves. We are tired of just these tokens that have been given to us. Shame on Governor Evers as well for trying to push up another stuff with us. We are done with that. We are not going to take it quietly. We are going to organize our own communities. Here, black and brown are together, and we're here to show it. We are together. We're not going nowhere, and we are going to work with each other, not with politicians. We're going to work within ourselves to organize ourselves. So we wanted to let you guys know that. All power to the people.
Power to the people. Ladies first.
No. We want you to go
Okay, listen.
as the Black Panthers.
I'm going to explain something to you. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything because I'm not Willy Wonka. I want you to know that in the first place. In the second place, I'm not a Republican, nor am I a Democrat. I'm a black man living in a black world doing black things for black and brown people. Now, this bull crap in the most racist and hyper-segregated state in America, I'll say it again, America with 3 Ks is unacceptable, and the power has always been in the hands of the people, and we have to use it effectively. We need to get off our butts,
To do what?
go down to the state capitol,
To do what?
and change everything. Listen,
And vote.
I have
and
a
vote.
sword of justice here.
We need to vote.
I have a sword of justice here, okay? I'm not asking for permission to do anything, and you shouldn't ask either. The power has always been in the hands of the people, and you have to use it effectively. And if you don't, we will continue to suffer, especially in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is the most racist and hyper-segregated city in freaking America. Why are we asking permission? I'm not. We have a sword of justice here. We're going to change the dynamics by any means necessary. All power to the people. No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! I'm out.
Really, Lena?
So thank you so much for being here. So I also want to say that it wasn't just myself and Representative Ortiz that has done this fight. Also Representative Cabrera and Representative Lakesha Myers. Representative?
Good evening. I'm happy to be here in front of this Cesar Chavez statue because we know what that represents. It meant people's power. And that's why I'm happy to see the coalition that is here with us today to underscore the fact that we cannot lose African American and Latino voting rights in the city of Milwaukee nor across the country. People understand that representation does matter.
Yes, yes.
When you look at the way our lines are drawn and based on population in the state of Wisconsin, African Americans only make up 6.41%. That's roughly about 380,000 people in the entire state. 70% of those people live right here in the city of Milwaukee. So there is no way possible that you could dilute or try to erase representation in the city of Milwaukee. I don't know who thought that was a bright idea, but it's not going to work. That's what we're here to say today. It's not going to work. We voted together to not accept any redistricting map. No redistricting map that would erase or crack or try to dilute African American and Latino representation. We need to continue to work as a collaborative together and make sure that we mobilize not only both communities on the issues, but also mobilize people to go out and vote. Voting is what's important here. Making sure that we have the ability to elect people that are of our own communities. That makes a difference. One of my colleagues asked me yesterday, well, don't you think if a person were to represent you that didn't look like you, wouldn't it be the same even though they were in the same party? I said no, because I look through my lens as an African American woman, and I know I carry my community on my back when I'm in Madison. It would be the same thing for a Hispanic person. They bring the issues of their community with them. So no, all representation is not equal in this instance. You have to have diversity and equity and inclusion at the state capitol.
But more importantly, it's the law.
Well, that's true too.
It's protected under the Voting Rights Act.
You heard the lawyer tell you the truth. That's right. So our lawyer has spoken. Senator Taylor, don't forget she was a lawyer first before she was a senator.
We're going to open it up for questions. Anybody have any? Anybody here?
What's your next step? Now the state assembly, well, the Republican-controlled state assembly voted for their maps to move forward. So what's the next step?
The GOP maps were voted on. They were passed in both houses. The Democrats voted against those maps that were biased or not fair to partisanship and not fair to the VRA.
Correct.
The next step is, Governor, veto those maps because they are not fair to the VRA. And then the step after that is we're in court.
right.
And the main issue is the black and the brown community presently does not have representation in court that is arguing for us to have majority minority districts. So we are going to have to change that, and that is what this united effort is about.
Right. We want to make sure they know.
Any other questions?
We want to keep our majority districts. We know our rights. We want to keep what we have.
It's no opportunity if it is not taking the totality of the circumstances into play.
Into consideration. Is there
Any other questions?
Yes, has Governor Evers contacted any of you saying that he's going to withdraw or going to step back from the PMC maps or not?
Not from what we know. He came briefly to our caucus yesterday prior to us going to the floor, but there has been no conversation with the governor nor a member of his office to say that he was planning to go back to the drawing board, which is unfortunate. So now we're at the mercy of the courts.
Right now without representation. So
Yes.
it's the number one issue is to acquire representation
That's where the
to
battle
protect the right for districts of our choosing, districts that give us candidates of our choosing, regardless of other voting blocks, as the VRA protects.
And looking at the totality of the circumstances.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You got the trucks on.
I do.
Does that mean you're running
I
for
am.
lieutenant
I'm a
governor?
candidate for lieutenant
I
governor.
know.
We need to be in the
Who's
room.
running for governor?